What if your fatigue, brain fog, or chronic symptoms aren't because your body's broken, but because it's stuck in defense mode? In this episode, I'll be diving into one of the most important and overlooked breakthroughs in chronic illness and healing, the cell danger response, also known as CDR. Now, whether you're a practitioner, a patient, or someone who's felt off for a long time without answers, this episode is going to help you reframe illness as a process, not a failure, and also understand your body is trying to send you a signal. Welcome to the Dr. Josh Axe Show. I was recently speaking at an event in Florida, and I had somebody come up to me and tell me, Dr. Axe, I believe I was vaccine injured. They said, I have had long COVID symptoms for over 2 years now. I've tried numerous therapies. I've been doing infrared sauna. I've changed my diet, and I'm still not healing and getting better. Why is this? Well, what I shared with them is what the new science is saying about something called cell danger response, which is your cell's protective mechanism against threats like infections, toxins, trauma, or even emotional stress. And the CDR, pioneered by Dr. Robert Naval, explains what happens when cells get stuck in survival mode. Now, during this response, cells shift from growth and connection and regeneration to defense and isolation. And this model is changing how we understand everything from chronic fatigue and long COVID, even to autism, autoimmune disease, and anxiety. And here's the reality: your body isn't failing to heal. It's waiting for all clear signals that it's never received. So imagine like this person who came up to me where their body has some lingering, let's say, viral infection. And their body is sitting there saying, okay, well, we know that we've maybe cleared some of this invader, but not all of it. And so your body is constantly sending out warning signals and using your energy to throw up flares in the air saying, help me, rather than heal itself. And so what happens in a cell danger, and this is why people aren't healing. So if you're one of those people and you've had long COVID or parasites or mold toxicity or autoimmune disease, or some sort of issue, or autism, and you feel like you've made some improvements, but you're not fully getting better, this is probably the single biggest reason why. And what happens during the cell danger response, it involves changes in your mitochondria and the release of ATP, which is cellular energy. And your mitochondria, we know, are known as your body's cell energy producers, and they also act as sensors and signal hubs initiating this cell danger response. And so here's what ATP normally is used for: cellular energy. So it's used to fuel all of your organs, for your thyroid to release enough hormones, for your liver to detox, for your lungs to breathe, for your stomach to digest food. Your cells and those organs use ATP in order to function. However, here, this is key. When you have an invading organism, your cells start throwing up these signals saying, hey, I need help. And so where ATP normally is used for cellular energy, instead now here's what happens. It's released outside of the cell. And when this happens outside of the cell, ATP acts as a danger signal. Now, this alarm signal activates receptors in nearby cells, triggering inflammation and suppressing repair and regeneration of the cells, and actually blocking communication signals. And mitochondria, they're not being dysfunctional. They're just stuck in this phase where they just keep telling the body over and over and over again, I need help. And that's what's happening. So for anyone that's stuck with issues like chronic fatigue or long COVID or chronic infections or Lyme disease, where you're just feeling overrun and like your body is not healing, the problem is your system, rather than regenerating and healing, it keeps sending off of these flares and saying, I need help. And until you fully rid your body of the infection or the childhood trauma that your body's viewing as a threat, until you get rid of the threat, your body can't heal. And so this is what the new science is showing. And so one of the things we want to do is help reframe illness from something you need to fix to start listening to your body, these signals that it's giving you, and trying to get to the very root of all causes in order to heal. And if you're one of those people and you've had consistent fatigue and chronic pain and brain fog, this is one of the biggest reasons why. And this also provides a sort of unified theory across many complex conditions regarding your immune system, your nervous system, your metabolism, your hormonal system, to where they're not syncing up. Because again, all of your energy is going towards just, I need help. That's really what's happening here constantly. And what I'm going to get into today is how to actually address and heal and break the cycle of the cell danger response. Now, there's really three phases of the cell danger response. The first one is defense. Now, this is typically triggered by an infection, a toxin, or a trauma or a stress. So this could be everything from you've consumed too many foods with glyphosate, or you got bit by a tick and now you have Lyme disease, or you lived in a moldy home, or you got long COVID from a vaccination. Whatever happened, it starts there, or it starts with, listen, you had a really bad relationship with your mom, or you were abused by a man in your life. And so you have this constant thing playing in your memory, a memory that's traumatic over and over again. And you've never actually gone and resolved that childhood trauma or that stressor in your life. Okay, so it can be physical, it can be mental, it could be spiritual, but there's a stressor that's happening. And it's just on replay, and your body's saying, please address this root issue. We have not fixed it yet. Okay. So then what happens is when you have this phase one defense, your cells start releasing ATP, energy, into your extracellular space. Okay. And this activates inflammation, because now your body's saying, okay, well, I'm going to send immune signals in cells in order to take care of this threat, but it sort of gets there and it doesn't know what the threat is, or the threat just never goes away. So your body lives in this constant state of inflammation. And this has been known to happen with autoimmune disease, for instance. So there's a lot of people with autoimmune disease that it kicked off with a viral infection or so much emotional stress or emotional trauma. A lot of it started when you were a kid, but then you have work stress and you have relational stress and all these things. And then finally, your body can't handle it anymore, and then your body gets in this autoimmune cycle of inflammation. And so the cause of a lot of autoimmune disease is leaky gut, but a lot of leaky gut is actually caused by emotional trauma or chronic infections. And what we need to happen is your mitochondria, what happens is when it's sending all of the cellular energy outside of the cell, it's not able to use it inside the cell and in order to run your organs. So this is why you're fatigued and tired all the time. Or this is why you get brain fog, because the communication signals are so off, or your hormones are so imbalanced because the cell signaling is so off. So that's what happens in phase one. Now, phase two is where your cells are trying to repair. And if the threat resolves, that's what happened. Your cells begin to self-repair. Your body activates more into what's called autophagy, which is your cellular cleanup, and your body starts getting rid of more of what are called senescent cells. These are zombie cells that sort of live in the city of your body. And if they're there, zombie cells or senescent cells are kind of like, let's say your body's like a city, and but let's say the city is like this dystopian society. There's broken down cars, there's garbage everywhere, and it's hard for an ambulance to even get through the street to go and save and rescue things that need saving. Well, autophagy is this recycling company and the waste management company. They're coming in, they're removing the cars, they're removing the garbage, they're cleaning up the city, so where now it's pristine, it's high functioning. That's what is activated in your body, and now your mitochondria begin restoring normal energy function, and now your cells and your organs can repair. Now, what happens in phase three is reintegration. Your cells reconnect to nerves, to hormones, to your immune system, and normal function resumes for growth and repair and for optimal function. And this is where healing truly happens, and you feel like you're finally healing. So many people today are living into phase one or somewhere in between phase one and two. The other thing I want to mention here is when people hear the thing mitochondria, we tend to think of that as the engine of your cell, the power plant of your cell that then runs your cell and then your organs. However, it actually does a lot more than that. Your mitochondria acts as the eye of your cell. So it's not just energy producers. They actually detect stress and launch this cell danger response. And so the job of the mitochondria includes producing energy for ATP, we knew that one, but also helps regulate cell metabolism. It signals when cells are under stress or in danger. It supports the immune response. They help control inflammation. They play a role in cell growth and death. They aid in hormone production and detoxification. They communicate with the other cells in your body, promoting good cellular communication. So think about the cell danger response like this. When your body gets in a fight or flight state, that tends to be happening at, when we talk about that, at an organ level, right? So multiple organs. It's your HPA axis, your hypothalamus, so your brain, your pituitary, and then your adrenal glands, okay? So it's called your neuroendocrine, your nervous system and your hormonal system are in a state of protection, okay? So that's at the organ level. Cell danger response is that very same thing happening at the cellular level, okay? And to fully heal, we need to focus on healing that organ system, but also know what's happening at a cellular level in order to fully heal and repair that issue. You know, when I look at the biggest symptoms of cell danger response, where your body is stuck in this fight or flight state, here's what they are. Ongoing fatigue is number one. If you are fatigued all the time, your body is stuck in cell danger response. Chronic pain that won't go away, inflammation, and brain fog. Even when the original trigger is gone, the body behaves as this threat is still persistent. So this is another thing that happens. A lot of times these lingering or mysterious symptoms stay there even though your test results are completely normal. And that's what was happening when I was meeting with this person in Florida, and they had long COVID from this injury that they had. They shared with me, they said, Dr. Axe, the craziest part is I've been doing the sauna. I've been eating healthy. I've even been trying to reduce the stress. And I'm somewhat better after 2 years, but it's like my body is stuck in a cycle that I can't break out of. And they're like, my blood work is totally normal. My doctor said, listen, they said, you're totally normal. I think this is in your head at this point. It's not in your head. It's in your cell. It's in your bloodstream, right? You know, I think one of the biggest reasons why people start having this cell danger response and it doesn't get turned off is that there are just so many things that are adding to our toxic bucket. And this is called the barrel effect, okay? So imagine your body is a barrel, okay? And once it overflows with water, that's when your symptoms show up. So for a lot of people, you've got childhood trauma, okay? You got emotional stress. You've got toxins from glyphosate, right? There's toxins in our air, our water, our soil, nutrient depletions. There's all of these things that are adding up. And then you throw chronic infections in the mix and mold and long COVID, all these things. And then finally it just overflows, right? And so your body is just expressing these symptoms constantly. And until we can finally drain it of the things that are causing issues, the toxins, the emotional traumas, the viral infections, the parasites, those sort of things, you're going to stay sick. Now, here are the most common conditions, according to the medical literature, that is linked with CDR, the cell danger response. Number one are autism spectrum disorders, okay? And this is especially those with the more severe autism symptoms. The second is chronic fatigue syndrome. After that, mold toxicity, Lyme disease, post-traumatic stress disorders, autoimmunity like Hashimoto's and lupus, long COVID and post-viral symptoms and syndromes, mood disturbances like anxiety and depression, chronic pain, food sensitivities, cognitive disturbances, and poor recovery from illness and injuries. These are the biggest conditions and symptoms associated with cell danger response. When we look at chronic fatigue syndrome, for example, this is where your mitochondria remain in hypometabolism mode, right? Energy production is suppressed. Your body's just not producing enough energy. That can cause it. Autism spectrum disorders. This is where developmental cell danger response pathways fail to fully resolve. Ongoing inflammation and neural inflammation and gut microbiome inflammation never fully resolves. Long COVID, this is incomplete resolution of this viral infection where your body's continually putting out these ATP danger signals saying, I need help. Right? And think about mold and Lyme, a very similar thing. Your ongoing immune activation, despite the removal of the trigger, where your body just gets stuck in a response. And so what we need to do is we need to go and break this response that so many people are having. Listen to this. As many as 30 to 40% of adults with COVID-19 developed long COVID symptoms. Think about that. During long COVID, During COVID, spike proteins and viral RNA activate the CDR. Okay, do you hear that? It's the spike proteins and viral RNA that activate the cell danger response. And so if you're living with something like long COVID and these symptoms, and you've heard of spike protein, this is due to, that's what it does. It kicks off the cell danger response. And for most, the cycle completes and they recover. But for some, especially those with trauma, prior illness, or mitochondrial vulnerability, they remain frozen. This fight or flight, again, it gets frozen. Your cells get frozen in protection mode, not healing and regeneration mode. And so what's essentially happening in the body is this. You have decreased AT production inside the cell and for your organs. You have altered amino acid and fat metabolism, so your body's not absorbing nutrients, creating nutrients, and utilizing them properly. You have mitochondrial dysfunction in the brain, in the muscles, and ongoing immune activation without even maybe a present viral threat. Here's the other big thing about spike protein. Spike protein can disrupt mitochondria in the heart, the brain, and the immune cells. And this is why so many people are getting myocarditis with long COVID, is these spike proteins and cell danger responses causing chronic inflammation, which is causing myocarditis and pericarditis and heart issues. Now, when it comes to healing and breaking the cell danger response, listen, here's the reality. It's not about forcing the body into healing itself, okay? We just want to gently nudge the body and do the things to get to the very root of what's going on. Here's the thing. You don't want to force your body. The goal is this, to make the body feel safe enough to move forward through the CDR phases. That's it. You want your body to feel safe and protected and secure. So we need to remove the threats. Let me ask you a question. Are you tired of being passed from doctor to doctor or being stuck with no answers? You've had your blood work done, maybe more than once, maybe even you got put on a medication. But deep down, you know something is still not right. Your energy's low, your brain's foggy, you're gaining weight or losing sleep, and no one seems to have real answers. Well, here's the truth. Traditional blood work only tells you what's happening in your blood at the moment. But health problems don't start in the blood, they start in your cells. What you need is a deeper look at what's happening at the very foundation of your cells, in the mitochondria, the cell membrane. These are the issues causing your hormone imbalances and your stress and the reasons why you can't fully heal. Not more blood work. That just changes with what you ate for breakfast. Let me show you how to expose the real reason your symptoms aren't going away. If you're ready to stop guessing and finally get answers that go beyond regular conventional blood work, go to beyondbloodwork.com and I'll show you what your cells have been trying to say all along and how you can finally heal at the cellular level. So let me go through this overview on the steps to heal. Okay. Number one, remove persistent threats. You want to do root cause work. Okay. And in order to do that, you want to look at your spiritual, mental, and physical health. Let's start with the spiritual and mental. Okay. Writing down memories that still bother you today. Were you ever abused physically, sexually, verbally, in any way? Did someone say something to you at some point in your life and you still remember it? I've shared with you before, I had a teacher tell me I wasn't smart. It almost kept me from becoming a doctor. Really just, it was sort of this mental torment for years that I wasn't smart because one teacher said something to me, okay? And you might have had that person or something much more severe than that happen in your life, and you're still living it with today. I remember reading a study a few years ago on fibromyalgia and how over 50% of people with fibromyalgia were abused in some way in their life. Oftentimes sexually, oftentimes physically, some sort of major abuse. And so you need to, one, look at, is there some sort of abuse, or did you do something wrong to someone? And you've been living in a state of guilt and shame, or maybe you're just living with regret of something that happened in your life. But you need to go to the past and say, what are those things from your past that still bother you today? And you need to work through them, whether it's with a licensed counselor, preferably somebody that is very deeply religious and spiritual and excellent at their work, so they're actually getting to the root of the problem and you're not just ruminating and wallowing more in the actual problem itself, getting to the root of that. So finding a good Christian counselor, pastor, or Christian psychologist that can, again, help you heal the deep roots of what's going on. So that would be my first suggestion. There's a lot of value in writing. There's work by James Pennebaker where write down what are those things that still bother you today. And then praying through those, what can you give to God? What can you actually go and ask forgiveness for or forgive somebody from? But really going to those things first and foremost, okay? Those are sort of those mental and some of those spiritual things. Maybe there's, I wanted to tell you, here's another example of one. And the Bible talks about this frequently as well. It says a lot of times these things will happen and impact the third and fourth generation. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't break that cycle or that spiritual sort of bondage or that epigenetic thing that's been passed down to you. I have a friend whose father made a massive mistake in their life, and they feel like that's on, it reflects so much on them that it's become part of their identity in a big way. Listen, you need to be able to go and resolve that with yourself and think about all the people who had fathers who had gone and done things that are wrong, and they went and redeemed the family name, right? So I think there are things there that you need to be aware of spiritually as well in terms of family ties and things that your family did in the past and going and speaking over those things and letting those loose. I did this in my life. When I was in college, I went through this program. It was called The Bondage Breaker. And it was a book by this Christian psychologist called Neil Anderson. And I went through and I thought about everything I'd ever done wrong in my life, anything I wasn't proud of, anything in every phase of life that I could go through. It could have been my relationships with my family. It could have been with people I dated. It could have been, if I ever said anything just mean to somebody, or if I was harboring unforgiveness towards somebody else. But I wrote down every one of them, everything I could think of that I know I'd done wrong in my life. And I went and I did this with another man, amazing man. I remember thinking he was in his 60s or 70s, amazing Christian guy. And I did it with him, and we prayed together that I would be broken from and release all of those things, or anything even my family members had done wrong that I felt reflected on me, prayed over those. And I had such a sense of freedom afterwards. That's what you need. Your cells, your body, your spirit, your mind need to be set free from wrongdoing and from past mistakes. Or even if you feel like you've gotten past it, going and addressing it is so powerful. So again, I think for a lot of people, we just want to dive right to what supplement can I take? What medication can I take? What diet can I follow? What therapy? Can I do some more red light therapy? Those things are good. I'll get to those. But overall, one of the greatest things you can do to actually heal and get your body out of this psychological state. Listen, the cell danger response is an organ system. It's in your cell, but most closely it's connected to that HPA axis, and it starts in your brain. That starts in your mind. It starts in your spirit. So you have to go and do that work along with all the other work, okay? And there are some great books on that. But again, seeing a counselor, going to a church, doing a retreat, doing those things to address those past failures and mistakes, or those things that still bother you today, the abuse that was done to you, you got to address that. That's number one. Number two, we want to reintegrate the nervous system via, looking at doing things to sort of build yourself spiritually. So one thing you want to do is you want to release and let go of all things from the past. But now you want to move forward and upwards and have a deeper connection with God, with your true identity and your purpose in life. Okay? So let go of the past and then start moving forward and upward. Okay? Who are you? Go read the Bible, see what it says about you. Go and build that strong identity. What are the unique gifts God has given you that no one else has? Now you know you're part of your identity. Now you know your purpose. And now going and get to work. Getting part of a really positive community. If you have toxic people in your life, getting those people out of your life and now focusing on being around like-minded, purpose-driven people and doing good in the world, okay? So you're letting go of the past, you're moving forward and upwards and connecting with God, with other people to do good in the world, okay? And that's part of spiritual growth, and then using your gifts for good, okay? Those things. That's number two. Number three, you want to do mitochondrial support. Okay, we want to change your diet, getting a diet that's highly anti-inflammatory. We want to calm your nervous system first and foremost. The best thing to do that is lots of omega-3 fatty acids and lots of magnesium, okay? So wild-caught salmon would be great. Grass-fed beef. Organ meats would be wonderful as well, but doing a lot of those nutrient-dense wild organic meats, walnuts, fatty fish, and then also foods that are going to be high in And other healthy fats, by the way, as well. Lots of extra virgin olive oil would be wonderful as well. And then we want to do some foods rich in magnesium, steamed vegetables like steamed spinach, cauliflower, carrots. We want to be doing certain types of fruit. Apples and berries would be good, pomegranates. And then healthy fats, avocados would also be a great food. A little bit of dark chocolate would probably be good. So doing a lot of these types of foods, high protein, high healthy fat, very nutrient dense fruits and vegetables, along with the organ meats and organic meat, a very healing diet like that. And then along with the diet, you want to do mitochondria support. We want to do very specific supplements that support the mitochondria. When we look at the mitochondria, I would say first and foremost, most people wouldn't think of this, but I would think probiotics are very high on the list. You want to do higher dose probiotics. I would look at doing an NAD plus supplement or a methylated B vitamin supplement with NAD plus. Very healthy for the mitochondria. Coenzyme Q10 is wonderful for the mitochondria. Vitamin D and magnesium are very, very therapeutic. Now, I also like red light therapy. I like infrared light, infrared sauna. This helps activate and heal your mitochondria as well. So lots and lots of benefits there. Now, I'm going to retouch on this in a minute, but I want to go over a few other things first. Again, we need to remove the persistent threats. Here's why. The body won't exit phase one, where your body's in this defense mode, unless the perceived threat is gone or significantly reduced, okay? If you've got a chronic infection like Epstein-Barr virus or Lyme or Candida, these keep the immune system on high alert. H. pylori overgrowth, okay? Now, you can get functional testing like a GI map where you're looking at your stool. We're looking at your physician's looking at your stool test and being able to identify the mycotoxins or the microbial overgrowth that's damaging your body. We know mycotoxins like mold can be a major issue here, heavy metals as well, mercury, lead, cadmium, but we want to see what is bothering your body. And then what we want to do is we want to go through and detoxify your body. So if you've got a parasite, we need to do a parasite protocol to rid your body of parasites. If it's heavy metals, we need to rid your body of heavy metals. But there's a lot of values in working with a cellular medicine or a functional medicine practitioner that can help walk you through that. If you want to meet with someone about that, you can go to the Health Institute or the Longevity Institute, and you can meet with one of the, one of the practitioners that I've trained, or you can look up Dr. Axe, virtual clinic or Dr. Axe clinic. But I've trained people in order to help people with these very things. And listen, there's a lot of great practitioners out there. There's also a lot of bad ones. So you want to go and find that top 10% of practitioners and see those. So make sure who you're ever seeing is very good, because you want to make sure you're doing the right process to getting rid of the chronic infection and the trauma there as well. Of what's going on in your body. As part of your nervous system regulation, as I mentioned, you want to be able to address the things from the past. We want to be able to start to grow spiritually, find your identity, find your purpose, and also just create a rhythm in life that's healthy. So many people are living in a fight or flight state because you just pack your schedule full every single moment of every day. I see moms do this the most. It's like, okay, you wake up and you're taking care of your kids all day. You're running to soccer practice. You're volunteering at the bake, whatever. You're going to church. You're doing this, and this. And literally every second of the day, you've got something. You need to schedule several hours a week, a few days a week, where you're just able to take a breath, read a book, do a fitness class, do lunch with a friend, go take a nature walk, okay? You've got to be able to have a little bit of that rhythm in your week, men and women, okay? And if you say, well, I don't have time for that, that's the problem. Or again, have a family member, have a friend. Listen, you need to ask for help as well. So many people are trying to go through life alone. We're meant to go through life in a community. So we need to reset this nerve system. But the first thing is you need to give your body a rest. You need to get good sleep and also have downtime in your week to just be able to just be and relax and do things you love to do. Breath work can help this, okay? This activates your parasympathetic nerve system, like your vagus nerve, shifting the body out of fight or flight mode. Simply just 5 seconds, hold 2 seconds, breathe out 5 seconds. Do that 10 times. It's that easy. Cold exposure can actually help. Getting in a cold plunge. Now listen, if you've got a chronic infection and are sick, you don't want to do too much of this or not at all. You're better off getting in an infrared sauna and doing deep breathing. But if you feel like you have a fair amount of energy, doing cold plunge along with infrared sauna, trying to do both together can help somewhat. There's also things like somatic therapy. There's techniques to reduce stored trauma from the body, like TRE or SE therapy. Again, these somatic therapies can help. Humming, prayer, and singing. In fact, humming. Have you ever, I remember Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Okay, I loved Monty Python, and they would be. I remember and I had really the church I grew up in was very, nobody was ever humming or chanting. But you look at the monks throughout history, they hum and they have certain chants that are very unto Christ, unto God, and honoring them, and doing something to help with meditation. And so there's actually something that happens when you hum. It's a very similar thing. You ever noticed in nature, when you're walking in nature, have you ever just been stressed and all of a sudden, like, you go to the beach or you walk in a forest and all of a sudden you're just stressed, just goes down? Isn't that amazing? Like, your cortisol just goes, whoosh, your stress hormones just drop. Sometimes that's just sound. There are so many studies on sound, being able to do that. The sound of the ocean waves crashing, the sound of rain, the sounds of the bugs or the birds just chirping there, okay? Well, you can activate that yourself when you're actually humming or singing. So just, So there are things you can do with just humming that. And if you do that like I do, and you do that in a state of just thinking about God and his love for you and his just love just pouring over you, and just thinking about how much you're loved, how much you're cherished, that God gave his only son for you. If you're just living in that state of just love and humming, it actually just, you'll see it just starts to drop down, and just living in a state of gratefulness, just thinking about all the wonderful things in your life. Okay, so helpful. So again, we want to do some of these things to regulate your nerve system. As I mentioned, we really need to focus also on healing your mitochondria. Coenzyme Q10. Now, you can get this from a heart glandular supplement or a coenzyme Q10 supplement, typically 100 to 200 grams a day. I mentioned NAD+, also known as NADH, is a great thing to look for. Ribose, magnesium, doing about 300 to 600 milligrams daily. L-carnitine, by the way, all these are found in heart glandulars, are very good for mitochondria, or organ glandulars. Doing those are all helpful. Now, in addition to the mitochondria, the other area of the cell you want to heal is your cell membrane. Okay, oftentimes it becomes hardened and stiff. Ways to do that is higher omega-3 intake. You want to do like wild-caught salmon or fatty fish, twice a day or at least once a day. And you could also do a quality fish oil supplement and walnuts, but really go high in omega-3s. That's going to help the cell membrane. Extra virgin olive oil, as I mentioned. And then phosphatidylcholine is a great supplement for the cell membrane as well. All of these things are very, very helpful. So there are many things that can be helpful, but overall, remember this. The cell danger response is this. Your body is being invaded, and your cells are trying to send you warning signals. Your body's not doing things wrong. Your body's doing the right thing, because if your body doesn't take care of this, it's going to cause more damage in your body somewhere. So your cells are saying, listen, I need help. So I'm making you tired. One, because you need to maybe to help sleep more, repair more, because I'm just using all my energy elsewhere. But your cell is trying to send you a signal. I need help. And typically the threat is a past memory or past trauma you've never dealt with, some sort of spiritual issue you've never addressed, an issue with a chronic infection, mold, Lyme, parasites, heavy metals, something that's still lingering in your system. Or maybe there's a massive deficiency or toxicity somewhere related to one of those infections or something else there. But there's a threat, and you need to find out what it is and remove it. There are ways to do that. You can do some good blood work. You can but you can do this without blood work often as well, if you follow a lot of the advice I shared with you in this as well. But blood work, and then going to a counselor, or we're doing some sort of exercise with someone where you go and find the root of all things that are still bothering you mentally and emotionally and spiritually, and addressing those things. And then do the right diet, do the right supplements, and the right protocols for healing. If you can do those things, you can break the cell danger response, and you can heal at the cellular level. So if you're living with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, autoimmune disease, if you have family living with certain severe symptoms of autism, a lot of these different conditions we talked about, then you need to go and actually get to the root of the issue, or it will never fully heal. And that's body, mind, and spirit. Focus on healing in all of those areas. If you do it, you can experience a breakthrough. And if you need help, then you can go to the Longevity Institute or the Health Institute and find a practitioner. Just search Dr. Axe Clinic online, and I'm happy to help, or my practitioners are happy to help you discover the root. And listen, you still probably need more of a personalized approach, or find a really good practitioner that's that top 1%, top 10% to help guide you through it. Okay. Hey, I want to say thanks so much for tuning in here to the Dr. Josh Axe Show. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share. By the way, every time that you subscribe, this show is able to bring on higher profile guests, and I'm able to get out more content to you. So just so you know, the greatest thing you can do to support this channel is to subscribe and to share. The greatest things you can do. So thank you, all of you who are on mission, who are subscribed and sharing this. We've got so many great interviews coming up and things that are really going to be more in-depth nutrition and healing advice. So excited about these coming up in the future. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.